a biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
You know, it is our tradition on a Wednesday to get an update on all of the changes that are going on in the nation of Israel and more broadly across the Middle East. And you know what? So many things are happening so fast, it's hard to keep up with all the activity. That's why we always like to call on Mandy Worby for her update. Hey, Mandy, welcome along.
Hi, I have a little bit of whiplash, if I'm being really honest with you.
Hey, right.
Like
okay.
Every day, it's like my head is going from side to side at the rate of speed that things are happening.
Okay, it's not a physical thing, but it's, okay. Right, last week when we were having our update, there had been a significant press conference. There was that major breaking news where Donald Trump said they're going to take ownership of Gaza. All the people of Gaza were going to be refugees and they were going to be moved out to other nations like Egypt and Jordan. Give us your update. This is a week down the road. Where are we up to?
Okay, well, let me start by just doing a little bit of a trip down memory lane or history lane regarding Jordan. Okay, so the nation of Jordan was created by the British mandate, Churchill in fact, and it was legal, by the way, as a consequence of the Allies winning World War II and World War I, both of them. However, they gave the majority of the land that was allocated for the Jewish state to the Arabs so that they'd have their own state as well. And the little sliver that was left, the 1/3 left along the coast, was for the Jews. England created the Emirate of Transjordan in 1921, and they put on the throne a Saudi Arabian prince. The Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan has a Saudi royalty on the throne. On the 2nd of February 1970, His Royal Highness Jordan's Prince El Hassan bin Talal said to the Jordanian National Assembly, quote, "Palestine is Jordan and Jordan is Palestine. There is one people and one land with one history and one and the same fate." Then his son, King Hussein bin Talal of Jordan, in an interview with the Arabic newspaper Anahar al-Arabiya on the 26th of November 1981 said, "The truth is that Jordan is Palestine and Palestine is Jordan." Now, Transjordan, as I said, was invented in 1921. It had never existed before that time, so it was a new nation created. On March the 23rd, 2012, Fatih Hamad, Gaza's Minister of the Interior for Hamas, while trying to get Egypt to supply Gaza with more fuel, said on Al Hekma Egyptian TV, he said, quote, "Personally, half of my family is Egyptian. We are all like that. Brothers, half of the Palestinians are Egyptian and the other half are Saudis. Who are the Palestinians? We have many families called Al-Masri, whose roots are Egyptian. They may be from Alexandria, from Cairo, from Damietta, from the north, from Aswan, from Upper Egypt. We are Egyptians, we are Arabs, we are Muslims, we are part of you." End quote. Okay, so having the Palestinians relocate to Jordan and Egypt is not irrational or unfair. They're brothers. They are family by their own admission, historically connected to those nations and lands. And President Trump's plan to move the Gazan people to Egypt and Jordan and then rebuilding Gaza into a beautiful, safe, terrorist-free, quote-unquote, Riviera on the Mediterranean, it's not so out of the box. Those who said such a thing was impossible, kind of now, a week or so later, scratching their heads going, actually, it's probably a good idea, and not just only a good idea, but feasible and sensible.
There are critics, and there are those who have their hackles up over the idea that Donald Trump said, we'll own the territory there of Gaza. And then it was a little bit like his department in the US was sort of backtracking on that a little bit. But then I think that Donald Trump has doubled down on that and said, yes, the ownership of that area to redevelop it.
Yeah.
Anyway, lots more to come, no doubt there. Let's talk about the release of the hostages, the latest release, 3 male hostages. So what were your impressions?
Well, I watched that live, and I've got to tell you, I was sickened. I was so angry at the spectacle that was put on by Hamas. It was basically to humiliate and degrade them even further. But I will just say, news this morning, is that one of the other hostages who was taken into Gaza an 85-year-old gentleman by the name of Shlomo Matzur. He has been confirmed dead. So he's been murdered by Hamas in captivity. He's dead. But yes, the 3 hostages were released, paraded in a revolting spectacle, and 183 terrorists were released to get those 3 gentlemen back, but they came out looking skeletal. The whole world watched the spectacle, horrified. I mean, people were saying this is just like they looked like they'd walked out of Auschwitz death camp after World War II and the Holocaust. Or Levi, Eli Sharabi and Ohad Ben Ami, they were released. They were kept in tunnels for 16 months, barely fed enough food. Sometimes they would take turns on who was going to eat today, given stale bread, nowhere near enough food to eat, no medical treatment. They were tortured. They saw no sunlight. They had no communications with anybody else. They had no media. They didn't know, 2 of them didn't know that their wives and children, and one of them, their brothers, had been murdered on October 7. And Hamas stood there with microphones in their faces, these cowards with their heads wrapped up, interviewing them and then having them say that, yes, I'm looking forward to going back and meeting with my wife and children again. And they laughed at them knowing they were going back to empty homes. This is the evil that they're dealing with.
And interestingly, Mandy, when we talk about the condition of those hostages, and as you say, it was a reminder, looking at those 3 men on that stage, those are reminiscent of the images you might have in your mind of Jews that have come out of a concentration camp after the Holocaust. And it led, I understand it, for some to think that they sent the healthiest hostages out first, and if this is the status of the hostages right now, the likelihood is that most of those remaining hostages could be dead. Well, and so there's been a big reaction to
some
that.
of the reports that the hostages who've been released are giving about what they saw other hostages being enduring, the torture, unspeakable. Cages hanging up, beatings. It's horrendous, right? Horrendous. Locked in cages like animals. And I think what happened is when the spectacle that they put out for their own joy and glee at humiliating Jews has backfired on them. And the world, even those who were trying to sympathise with Hamas, have come out there absolutely disgusted by it. And so they've used that as an excuse to say, oh, no more hostages released because Israel broke the ceasefire, they're not letting aid in. Let me tell you something. Israel has sending in 4,200 trucks every single week into Gaza. 1.3 million tonnes of aid has gone into Gaza, more than what's given to other displaced peoples. But Trump saw it.
There's a new ultimatum here.
Yes, yeah.
Give us an explanation of what you see as that ultimatum.
He was so disgusted by what he saw. And then with Hamas saying, oh, no, we're going to no more hostages released until further notice. This is indefinite because of Israel. Trump has basically said, we're done. Okay, the patience is gone. They have until 12 o'clock on Saturday to release all the hostages. No more 2s and 3s here. All of them have to be released. Otherwise, all hell will break loose. And he was asked, well, what does that look like? What is all hell going to look like? And he said, you'll see and they'll see. And then he actually said, while King Abdullah from Jordan, who's just been there, with Donald Trump, he said, I don't think that Hamas will actually release the hostages. And he said, and then all bets are off. We don't know what that looks like, but Israel is mobilising the IDF. Leave for the reserves and everything has been cancelled, and they're ready. I believe the Knesset has approved it. They're going in if their hostages are not released.
Lots more to follow along with that, and we'll keep up with that in the news and with updates that we can have here on this program. Hey, what's happening on the border with Lebanon and Syria? Now, so just to the north of Israel is Lebanon, and then just to the east of Lebanon is Syria. What's happening along that border? Right,
okay. Well, Israel is got an extension to stay there for till the 18th. They are continuing to blow up and dismantle tunnels and weapons, munitions and manufacturing, all of that. Hezbollah is supposed to stay north of the Litani River, but they keep coming down and they keep saying they're coming back down. If that happens, look, I don't know. Come the 18th, I don't know. If Hezbollah determines that they are going to move south of the Litani River, then Israel will have the justification legally to stay there and push back. I don't know. At the moment, they're just dismantling. Then you've got the Syrian side. When the terrorists took over and ousted Assad, Israel immediately moved in and set up a buffer zone because they're not prepared to have terrorists come and be a danger on that front as well. I mean, Syria was already lobbing rockets and allowing Iran to funnel weapons through their territory to Hezbollah. So what they have said is, though, it's not temporary. They're staying, at least for 2025. They've set up 9 bases with 3 companies or battalions, whatever they call it, 3 brigades, to maintain the peace on that particular area. The real focus now, though, is Jordan and Egypt.
Let's talk about Jordan and Egypt because they're in the spotlight because of the refugees that are in Gaza and whether those 2 nations will take those refugees. Where do you think things are heading here?
Okay, well, they initially said absolutely no way, not going to do it. And the world is scratching their heads saying, but these are your brothers. You love these people. You're advocating for them, but you won't help them. And Donald Trump is saying no. So King Abdullah of Jordan has just arrived in Washington, had a meeting with Trump. They had their press conference. And instead of just saying no, he's saving face. He knows that he needs to step up and help because they get every year from America, excuse me, Jordan gets $1.7 billion in aid every single year. They can't afford to lose that. Egypt gets $1.5 billion a year in aid from America. So Trump's saying, you get a lot of help from us, you need to step up. So King Abdullah has said Jordan will take 2,000 of the Gazan children. And I think that's his way of saying, oh, we'll help, but we'll only help a little bit, but I think it'll end up being a whole lot more. Then you've got Al-Sisi in Egypt. He has said that, he's cranky that, aid is being used as a bit of a coercive trick or a motivational tool, shall we say.
Yes.
And so he cancelled his trip to Washington, but he has actually called for a summit to happen in Cairo on the 27th of February. Now, here's the deal. I'm thinking the 27th of February is 15 days away, but Saturday is only 4 days away. What is Gaza going to look like if Hamas doesn't release the hostages? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're planning till the 27th to have this meeting with all these leaders of these Arab nations, but anything could happen between then, and it probably will between now and then. It's a bit up in the air, and tomorrow something else may have happened, Neil, and we will have to go. And it could be all different.
Just quickly, time's running out. The United Nations in all of this and their support for refugees in Gaza. What are your thoughts here?
Well, this is very interesting, actually, because they're saying, no. You can't send the Gazans out of Gaza. Their homes are there. Their land is there. You can't send them out. Now, Hillel Neuer, he actually heads up a one-man organisation called UN Watch, and he has made a very interesting point. I'll quote him. I don't want to get him wrong. He said, if 1.6 million Palestinians in Gaza are refugees, then why is it wrong for Jordan and Egypt to welcome them? If you object that this would uproot them from their homes and land in Gaza, then why are they being called refugees? They're not refugees, of course, if they have land and homes and properties and businesses. So he's caught out the United Nations in their own game because UNRWA, which is now expelled from Israel, is a refugee organisation only for the Palestinians. But if they're not refugees in Gaza because they've got home and land, why is UNRWA there? They're not refugees. But if they are refugees, they need to go to Egypt and Jordan, where UNRWA can assist them there as refugees.
Well, there's a lot of things happening, a lot of activity, a lot of things to keep up with. Difficult to unless you're paying some special attention like you do, Mandy Worby, and really appreciate your update. I know listeners are really appreciative of those insights too. Appreciate you being with us on 2020.
My pleasure.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.